civil unrest and war in the streets. And this is all due to a cartel leader being killed. It is getting crazy, and it's only February. Welcome back, YouTube. It's your host, GNT, and we're here to talk about Mencho, right? He is a former drug cartel leader in Mexico that was killed, I guess, in a raid, right? The backlash, what's happening after the fact, it's insane. So I'm not gonna waste any time. We're gonna jump right into this video.
Hello, welcome. I'm Nomia Iqbal. In Mexico, the army has confirmed the death of one of the country's most feared drug lords, known as Mencho, caught and killed in a dawn raid. He was killed in an operation in the town of Telpapa. The US had previously issued a $15 million reward for the capture of the co-founder and leader of the Jalisco New Generation drugs cartel. It's feared for its use of extreme violence. Violence broke out in the country as a result of his killing. Suspected members of the cartel began burning dozens of cars and trucks in the state and a neighboring state as the army moved in, possibly to try to delay the operation. Our Latin America correspondent, Will Grant, joins us now from Mexico. Good to have you with us, Will. First of all, for people who might not know anything about Mencho, who was he?
He was crucial, Nami. I mean, we often talk in Mexico about kingpins and drug lords and so on. This was one of the very, very biggest. In this particular moment in time, the most wanted man in Mexico, by some distance, I would say. The feared leader of the Jalisco New Generation cartel, which is a vast criminal organization which traffics tons and tons of methamphetamine, cocaine and fentanyl into the United States, responsible for scores of murders a year. And, you know, one of those who really underpins the criminal underworld in this nation. Of course, it's a major victory on some level for the authorities here, for the military who killed him in a raid, injured him initially, and then he died en route to Mexico City. But of course, we're seeing the unfolding violence that goes with that, as his organization is extremely powerful and very, very well armed.
Two things, right? Good thing that they were able to do this themselves, because I know Mexico and certain parts of Mexico, like Mexico City in particular, right? They have been gripped and like in a chokehold when it comes to these cartels, because I'm not going to give my mouth liberties of things I don't fully understand, but I think it's safe to say that for the most part, and I think some people agree with me, it seemed like the cartels are running a whole lot of different things and were in league with the government. So the fact that this was able to happen now to kind of alleviate some of the pressure on the people, because there are good people there that want to just live their life, this is a great thing. Also fantastic that America had nothing to do with it. You need to mind that goddamn business. I keep saying time and time again. The only thing I can say about this, right, is that what happens in situations like this, and this is not like expert opinion, what happens is that you just cut the head off of one snake. That's usually what happens. Now it's a power vacuum. Now someone's just gonna fill in his place. The real challenge would be to root out, you know, all his contacts and all the people that he had connections with in, you know, the organization as a whole. But this is a step in a great direction, because they've been plagued by this for years at this point, for years. Hopefully the backlash isn't too big. I mean, obviously you're gonna see some, because it seemed like they held a lot of power. They had like a lot of weight within the city. So, you know, hopefully it's nothing too serious.
Now, National Guard have been deployed outside the attorney's office after that killing. We just showing some live pictures there in Mexico City of the National Guard outside the office. And Will, just give us a sense of what happens when leaders are taken out, this sort of kingpin strategy. You know, does it work? Is it something that, you know, what happens as a result of it?
It can have an impact. I mean, somebody like Mencho, so these organizations can be quite top-heavy in the sense that an individual leader can be an important, more than just a cog in a bigger machine. They are leaders for that very reason. They lead troops, they lead men, and they bring strategy to the table. That said, where one leader falls, another is invariably ready to take his place or her place. There are important women in drug trafficking too, but it is key that when one falls, there's generally people beneath him to replace him. We'll see what happens in this particular instance. It is interesting, this degree of violence and how quickly it's unfolded, and a real challenge for law enforcement in cities across Mexico. And let's just mention some of those cities. They include Guadalajara, the state capital, important cultural center in Mexico. They include, and going to be a host city of the FIFA World Cup this summer. They include Puerto Vallarta, a very, very important tourist hotspot in the country where potentially thousands of tourists currently hold up. So, this is a major moment in sort of drug war history in Mexico.
And Will, I think we're still trying to work out, you might actually know more than I do, if the US were involved in any capacity in this operation, but nonetheless, I imagine that this will be seen as a victory by President Trump, the death of someone as significant as Mencho.
Yeah, I hope we had nothing to do with it because, like I said, we need to take our little fat fucking fingers out of everybody else's country, okay? I have no issue with helping people, assisting people in certain things, but military operations that are removing certain people, no, we need to mind our business. Mind our business. They can handle it, okay? Mexico has been dealing with this trouble for decades at this point. They should be able to handle it. Yes, it is a win for Trump administration because he did talk about making sure that we stop the flow of drugs that's mostly coming up from the southern border into the US. I get that, understand that, fair, and I do see this kind of as a victory, but I don't want us to be too much involved in other people's shit. We need to take a step back, because we got our own stuff that we need to deal with. All right. Besides that, right, I guess you could say the president over there, right, Claudia Sheinbaum, I think she's, I guess you could look at this and see this as a win for her because she came in saying that, hey, look, we're going to root out these cartels and we're going to make sure that we're making like good strides to make it so that they don't have such a grip on the Mexican people. You could say this is a win for her as well because she did say that when she was going up there.
Yeah, I mean, what we're hearing from the Mexican embassy in the United States is that there was US involvement in terms of intelligence work, and giving it that sort of slight sense of a joint operation in that regard. But my understanding is that what unfolded on the ground was a Mexican military raid that led to the death of El Mencho, but with intelligence supports from the United States. We'll doubtless hear more during the week, particularly once President Claudia Sheinbaum has her early morning press briefing on Monday. But you're right, this will be played as a victory, I think, on both sides of the border, with Donald Trump pushing, since he returned to office, for greater action to take place against Mexican cartels.
Thank you so much, Will. Good to talk.
Yeah. You see, I'm okay with that. If it's just us, providing some intel and whatnot to assist them, I'm okay with that. I don't want American boots, feet, whatever the hell you want to call it, on the ground. No, we don't need that. Mind our business. We need to stay over here. Assisting them when it comes to that, sure. I don't mind that. A question that I do have, right? Do you think this would have happened? All right, let's think for a second. Do you think this would have happened if President Trump didn't come in and kind of big dog, the president over there in Mexico and say, hey, look, this, and this is going to happen when it comes to tariffs if you don't get your shit in order when it comes to these cartels? Do you think that would have happened? Because we saw what happened after he took office and how they put, their National Guard, their army on the border wall. That wasn't like that before. So we do see that. So we can give him a little bit of props and say, you know what? There was some positivity with him coming in and, kind of trying to bully, the other countries, in this case, Mexico, right? I'm going to try to cover what is going on exactly down there, maybe in other videos. And I definitely want to do a video because there's people talking about how the American tourists that were stuck in airports, I believe, right? And there's a whole lot going on over there. So I'll be checking in with this and keeping track with it. But yeah, it's insane. This is a win for everyone, So yeah, let's not break out the champagne. The work is not done yet, all right? Well, you guys already know the drill. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like. Comment down below. Tell me your thoughts. How do you feel about this situation? Are you okay with the U.S. assisting when it comes to intel? I know some people are very much like absolutely saying, hell no, we should have no involvement at all. Or are you saying, you know what, this is not bad because at the very least, we helped this much, and it was mostly them. It was their boots on the ground because obviously that's their country. So let me know how you feel about that in the comments below. But that's it for now. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.